For my OB concepts assignment, I'm going to be talking about a problem that I experienced during a final group project in one of my freshman college English classes. The problem that I'm going to be choosing to look at is unequal effort among the team members. I'm going to explain the situation and then I'm going to analyze it using the organizational behavior concepts of motivation, equity theory, and social loafing. And then I'm going to discuss my recommendations on how we could have improved our outcome and project now that I know what I know from our class. So the situation is at the final group project in my English freshman class. This project was about 20% of our final grade, and so I believed it to be very important. Our group had 5 members, including myself, and we were responsible for researching a topic and article, making a PowerPoint, and then presenting it in front of the class. At the beginning of the project, everyone agreed to help and contribute equally, as most people do at the beginning. However, as the project progressed, it became clear that some members were going to be contributing way more than others, and a few students consistently contributed their assigned work. We communicated with the group and helped build the presentation and project, while other members contributed very little and often didn't even talk to us or complete any of their tasks. So as a result, the workload became uneven, and the students who were putting in more effort, like myself, became frustrated because everyone would ultimately receive the same grade regardless of how much they contributed. And this created tension within the group, and then it reduced motivation throughout all of the team members. I think this situation directly correlates to the organizational behavior of motivation and teamwork. Our textbook defines motivation as a set of energetic forces that influence the direction, intensity, and persistence of our effort towards the project or the final goal, which is the grade. In our group project, it was obvious that motivation levels were very different among our team members. Some students, like myself, were highly motivated because we wanted that strong grade and for the project to be successful, while other students appeared for some reason less motivated and didn't really care about the final grade. Because motivation directly affects our performance, these differences in motivation created problems for our team. The group's success depended on everyone contributing equally, but when each person's motivation levels varied, the workload became unbalanced and the team performance obviously suffered as a result. So to better understand the situation, I chose to look at the equity theory as my primary theoretical framework. Equity theory suggests that people compare what they contribute to a situation with what they receive in return. The inputs in this project were things like time, effort, your participation, and the quality of work, and the outcomes were obviously the grade and the credit for the project and your recognition. In our group project, some members invested significantly more time and effort, like myself. However, ultimately, everyone was going to receive the same grade at the end of the assignment. And because the outcomes were equal, while the inputs were obviously very different, some students viewed the situation as unfair. And according to the equity theory, when people perceive unfairness, their motivation and satisfaction often decrease along with that. And this explains why some members became frustrated as the project continued and why the morale of our project declined within the group. All right, so what do I believe contributed to this problem? I think there's a couple of different factors, but I think first and primary was social loafing. Social loafing occurs when people put less effort when they're in a group than when they work individually, and this is because in a group, responsibility is shared among the 5 people within our group, and so some members may have assumed that the others would complete the work for them. Second factor, I believe, is poor communication. You can't have a successful group without proper communication, and although we discussed at the beginning of the project, we didn't really continuously communicate throughout the project about progress, our deadlines, or what our expectations were of each other. The third factor is a lack of accountability, I believe. So we didn't really have any system of measuring like individual work or what you were accountable for individually. And that obviously, if you don't have accountability, then some people are just not going to do it. Finally, I think the different priorities within the team members played a role to the problem. So some students like myself viewed this project as a top priority and wanted to work on it and get it done and get a good grade on it, while others, I guess, didn't see it as a top priority and didn't care about the final grade. So together, I think all of these factors created an environment where motivation was different and often led to the problems that we saw. So what would be my recommendations looking back now, knowing what I know through this class? I think first, I would probably assign specific responsibilities to each group member at the beginning of the project, so everyone knows what they're responsible for and what they're supposed to do at the end. And this is how the accountability is able to increase and you're able to keep each other accountable. Second, I would create milestone deadlines throughout the project instead of just that final due date, so it can help with all the procrastinators that are in college, and so they have multiple deadlines throughout. Third, I would probably schedule like weekly check-ins, so we have some line of communication so that we can address problems or concerns before they become too large at the end of the project. And then finally, I think with all final projects like this, you need peer evaluations that for some reason we didn't have during this. And so knowing that your teammates are going to eventually evaluate you and your performance in your work, and that's going to determine part of your grade, that helps with accountability and often motivates people to do their work. Again, in a project like this, I think that's really a non-negotiable. So what would be the obstacles regarding this, the fixes that I recommended? I think for one, and the most important, is schedules. Students often have different schedules and that makes meetings difficult to coordinate. I think that some team members resist the accountability and the peer evaluation. I think there's often disagreements when you're regarding responsibilities and distributing work. People don't like being told what to do, although sometimes in projects like this you need to. And so despite the challenges, I think understanding the organizational behavior concepts would have helped me approach this situation more effectively. And I think, understanding the concepts of motivation, equity theory, and social loafing, understanding them now, if I would have known them then, it would have allowed our group to establish better expectations and address problems sooner. I think this experience taught me that successful teamwork depends not only on completing your task, but also maintaining fairness, communication, accountability, and then again, most importantly, motivation, the same throughout all team members. Thank you.